ঠিক আছে. Good morning, all of you. I am Professor Biru Rajak, Assistant Professor, Computer Science Department, Asansol Girls College. On the behalf of our technical team, welcoming you. Any technical problem will be taken care by our team. I would like to request Professor Arpita Chakravarti to start the webinar.
Thank you, Professor Biru. Now, a very good morning to everybody present here. Our respected Vice Principal, sir, the esteemed invited guest speaker of today, and dear participants from not only from our state, but from all over the country. It is indeed a pleasure to invite you all to this webinar, which is organized by the Internal Quality Assurance Cell and the Science Propagation Committee of Asansol Girls College. The Science Propagation Committee of the college is committed to disseminate scientific outlook among the student community in particular and the larger society in general. And to this end, it has been actively organizing various science programs over the past years. It is known to all of us that we are passing through a phase which we cannot call a happy one. Doubts, uncertainties, questions of survival reign our thoughts the utmost in this pandemic crisis. But as academicians and people who are pursuing academics and a search for knowledge, we cannot shirk the responsibility of engaging into a critical inquiry into the causes and effects that arise from this untoward situation. It is here that the role of climate change and the loss of biodiversity today that comes in. In the Anthropocene, we know that this crisis of climate change and the loss of biodiversity is of great concern to not only the academicians, but environmentalists, social activists, political leaders from all over the world, and the common people. Thereby, by engaging deeper into various aspects of climate change and the loss of biodiversity, what we would like to do today is to take this dialogue of post-COVID survival a little further. Without delay, I would like to commence this webinar, and first of all, I would like to call upon our Vice Principal, Sir, Dr. Sandip Kumar Ghato, to deliver his inaugural speech. Professor Ghato.
Thank you, Arpita. Very good morning to all of you. I welcome all the honorable delegates and my respected colleagues and respected speaker for this national webinar, biodiversity and climate change, a recent context. It is very common that the topic which has been chosen by the Science Propagation Committee of Asansol Girls College as well as the internal quality assurance cell of the college, that it is highly relevant, but I think that it is so relevant. These sorts of topics should not confine within such type of discussion. It should be used in our practical life. What I say that the two concepts, that is biodiversity and climate, these are more or less the same thing, and both the two things are very much relevant and important. It is of crucial important in the life of the individual as well as in the life of the society. So if we apply our goodwill in favor of the climate, in favor of the environment, then it is not important for the individual or the society, as because the climate and the biodiversity, the human existence is totally dependent. So I know that this biodiversity and climate is also very important from the context of the economy of a country, but at the same time, These two things are very much important for the survival of our existence. We are less concerned about these two things. We are less concerned in our practical life. So it is my prescription that after this discussion, if we apply this in our practical life, if we are very much concerned about the environment, if we keep individual concern, caring about the individual, then I think we can combat the serious threats, serious challenges coming from the climate, coming from the biodiversity. We are rampant losing the climate, the environment, and as a result, we are facing a great crisis where human civilization facing a great crisis. A few days ago, some scientists have argued that during that period of lockdown, the environmental condition is slowly improving. But it is my prayer to all of you that we should take such steps so that this is a continuous permanent features that the environment is continuous and gradually improving. So I will not waste much time. I convey my thanks and gratitude on my personal behalf and on behalf of the Asansol Girls College to our very renowned speaker, Professor Apurva Ratan Ghosh, as because he spent some valuable times with us today. So thank you all of you, and I'm taking permission from the house that because I have some busy schedule in my college. For the time being, I leave the meeting, and again I will come back and I enrich myself. What I request the speaker, what we have to do in the practical field so that we can combat these challenges coming from the environment. Thank you. Thank you, Orvit.
Thank you, Sandeep da. Thank you, Sandeep da. Apurva bollam. Thank you.
Thank you to our Vice Principal, Dr. Sandip Kumar Bhatto. Thank you, sir, for being a constant source of encouragement and support for us all. Without much delay, I would now request one of our senior-most faculty members and a major force of the Science Propagation Committee, Asansol Girls College, Dr. Suprati Gangopadhyay, to introduce the theme of the webinar and our distinguished speaker, Dr. Apurva Ratan Ghosh, to the audience. Dr. Gangopadhyay, sir, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Rohini. On behalf of the organizing committee, myself, Dr. Suprati Gangopadhyay, again welcome all the participants and delegates in this webinar session. Now, I share few sentences about today's topic, especially for the students, biodiversity and climate change, a recent context. All of you know the biosphere constitutes a vital life support system for man. Its existence in a healthy and functional state is essential for the existence of human race. It is the complex collection of innumerable organisms, the biodiversity, which makes our lives both pleasant and possible. So, what is biodiversity? Biodiversity is complex beyond understanding and valuable beyond measure. The biodiversity is the total variety of life on our planet. The changes in climate conditions are reflected in the distribution of living organisms and the pattern of biodiversity on our planet. If this pandemic have any effect on our biodiversity, the entire spectrum of life forms on this planet would acquire a new look and character. So no one knows exactly how the biosphere shall react to the climate changes brought about by pandemic situations due to corona outbreak. So now I introduce our speaker, Dr. Apurva Ratan Ghosh, Professor Environmental Science, the University of Bardhaman, West Bengal. He was the Joint Director of IQAC and Director of UGC Academic Staff College, presently Human Resource Development Center, HRDC of the university. He has got authorship of 8 books and 103 research papers in national and international journals. Professor Ghosh bagged 19 research projects. So there's a long list of his biodata. I will not go through all in details due to shortage of time. So without any delay, I welcome Dr. Apurva Ratan Ghosh come in this webinar platform and start his today's lecture. Dr. Ghosh, please come.
Thank you, Professor Ganguly. I do like to say, better to say, Supratikda, for your nice introduction. Only I want to mention that right now, being a professor in the Department of Environmental Science, I was the former Joint Director of IQAC as well as the former Director of HRDC of the University of Bardhaman. Now, good morning, everybody. First of all, being a speaker, I would like to welcome all the distinguished participants, distinguished faculty members of the college, Asansol Girls College and different colleges if so, our non-teaching staff members, our research scholars, and my beloved students for whom I am here today. Really the topic which is mentioned by Shondipda, my great Dada, as well as Samulda, it's a biodiversity and climate change. Shondipda rightly pointed out. It's biodiversity and climate change are the two sides of the same coin. And I do really congratulate to rise to uphold this banner of webinar, that is biodiversity and climate change in recent context, which is very much relevant today because this year, as you know, in the World Environment Day, it was celebrated with the biodiversity. So at the outset, I must convey my regards to Vice Principal Sir, my great Supratikda, Shamulda, Meenakshi Madam, and all other members, those who are listening to me. Thank you everybody once again. Now you see the present human civilization is paying 2 years for its procrastination and prevarication. We have seen that already multiple back-breaking crises are unfolding simply because we did not take lesson from the past. So on the one hand, we are confronted to loss of huge lives, drugs with the livelihoods of the poorest and the most vulnerable people. That these calamities may be natural, may be anthropogenic, maybe COVID, maybe Amphan, the recent one, Nasgra. All of these things are, to me, is the complementary gift due to what's sharing the dystopian relationship with the nature. That is what we are doing injustice to the nature. But for your information, even as this horrifying crisis is unfolding in front of our eyes, there is another looming crisis, looming disaster, which is waving its red flag, that is climate change and biodiversity. There is a link. In this link, climate change of this making disparate events, which is indisputable. So, climate change, it's looking glaringly towards the humankind. I will start with this thing that biological annihilation akin to a sixth mass extinction. I will start with this quotation. Biological annihilation akin to a sixth mass extinction. So far we know that we have 21 lakh identified species in this world. But how much of them are unidentified? It is more, which is ranging from 150 to 2,000 crores what we say, that there is everywhere there is a life. Sandeep rightly mentioned that this biosphere made up of this lithosphere, hydrosphere, and atmosphere. If you consider the 10,000 meter constant, then you see from the surface of the earth up to the 10,000 meter above, there is life. Up to the 10,000 meter below, there is life. Where even in the ocean, in the thermal vent, the temperature is 100 degrees centigrade. Still there is life. But for my students, in the earth, there is some places, at least one of them, that is the Dalol water bodies, which is situated in Ethiopia. This temperature at that time in the winter, it is 45 degrees centigrade. And acidity is too high and salinity is also too high. It is observed by the scientists there is no microbes in this life. So other than this, our planet is Goldilocks. Goldilocks, not too hot, not too cold, but just right. The solar position of the earth is also contribute rather for the existence of the life. If you consider the position of the earth is in the middle of two other planets. The first one, from the sun to the nearest one, that is called Venus. The distance is 107 million kilometers and the temperature is 464 degrees centigrade. And just away from the earth, that is Mars. The distance is 228 million kilometers. Temperature is minus 63 degrees centigrade. And in between, that is our Earth, which is 147 million kilometers. Temperature is 15 degrees centigrade plus minus 0.5 degrees centigrade. So life is exist in the Earth. Our planet is the living planet. Our planet is the Goldilocks. Now this biological diversity, Supratik rightly mentioned, with varied in shape, varied in size, varied in color. It is varied from the microbes to mammoth. And this life, this biological organism, biological diversity was first coined by Thomas Lovejoy in the year 1980. After that, W.G. Rosen, in his book, he mentioned this biodiversity. But the man who coined this and described this term biodiversity, it is E.O. Wilson in the year 1985. Actually, he has made the link, made a cohesion between the humankind and the biological diversity, which is called biodiversity, with the existence of the life. So it was gaining importance day by day. As a result of that, we have seen that, the United Nations declared the first World Environment Day in the year 1972 in Stockholm. After that, in 1973, there was no celebration. And in the 1974 to up to date, we are conducting 48th World Environment Day. And if you consider this thing, in the year 1986, World Environment Day, in the theme was for life on Earth. Sorry, the first in the year 1986, it was the one tree for peace. How much important it is. Then in the year 1997, the World Environment Day was considered for life on Earth. In 1998, for life on Earth, save seas. You know that from the ocean we are getting 50% of the food production which is required by all the living organisms in this world. So how much important the ocean is, that I will describe you later on. In the year 2010, the very important World Environment theme was chosen by UNEP, United Nations Environment Program, that is many species, one planet, one future. And it was the International Biological Year. After that, after 9 years, in 2019, on 11th December at Madrid, United Nations Environment Program, UNEP, declared that the next World Environment Day will be celebrated in Colombia, in association, in partnership with Germany. So the celebration of biodiversity was the theme chosen for 2020 in Colombia. Now, my friends, you have in your mind why Colombia. Colombia, it is the second largest mega biodiversity nation in the world. The first one is Brazil, and the third one is USA. India is in the 16th position, and Madagascar in the 17th position. Some part of the Colombia is situated within the Amazon, and they are harboring at least 20% of the species which is available in the world. So how much important it is, you can imagine. Not only that, they are the first keeping their position for the birds, orchids, and plants. They are the second in the freshwater fishes and amphibians. And their position is third, only having the number of reptiles. Do you know how much invertebrate there is? 3 lakh species. Particularly in the northern part of America and some European countries, they are harboring 10 to 20% of the total biological species available. And 70% of this species is invertebrates. For your information, out of this 70% that you have nurturing today, and 95% of the invertebrate species we have not been able to identify so far. So now, what is the link between this huge biodiversity and the humankind as well as human civilization? I will say, according to Norman, human beings are using 80,000 plant species, 80,000 plant species for their food item. Out of these 80,000, 200 is used by 20% of the world population. And 4 main food items that we are getting from the plant: rice, wheat, maize, and potato, from where you are getting 60% of your vital energy. So I can say Indian subcontinent is the second largest producer and exporter of rice. Before Green Revolution, we have 42,000 varieties of species rice. Now we are getting only 20%. And don't forget about the basmati. It is our rice. It may be kalmati, it may be texamoti, because the Texas scientists, they called it as a texmoti, and the California people called it as a kalmati. But rice is our rice, that is basmati. And you will be proud to say, we are proud to say that our West Bengal is the rice bowl of India. Once upon a time in the 1965, our farmers are cultivating 4,800 varieties of rice. Now we have only 200 varieties of rice. And this India, among these 36 among the hotspots so far available in the world, 4 hotspots are in India. And we have some unique species like, single horned rhino, Asiatic lion, which is available in the Gir forest, then your desert camel, our wild ash of Ran of Kutch. These are Indian species. And India is also known as the land of spices, mosla, যেটাকে আমরা বলি মশলা. You know, India is the biggest country for production as well as exporting the spices. We have 75 types of species, spices are exporting all over the world. One the famous of them is cumin, that is called jeera for my students. It is jeera. And you know, the jeera is trading $12 million off for this trading. And others are red chili, turmeric, green cardamom, that is called elaichi. So according to UN Council, the third world countries making a business of $30 billion. So if the rightly mentioned that biodiversity, it can be dependent on the economics also. So this huge amount of business that we are doing from the plants, animals, and the microbes, which has been used in the medicinal components. In the Madagascar, I have told you, that is the 17th mega biodiversity country. There is a species of plant which is called Madagascar Periwinkle. Supotikda might be knowing the name of this species is Catharanthus rosaceus, that is Bangla bole Noyantara, from where we are getting the vinblastine and vincristin, which is saving the lives of 20 million babies suffering from children suffering from leukemia. What is the importance of this? And Madagascar is getting $15 million. But my students, you know, the people, the tribal people are not getting the benefit of this one. And again, in the Brazil, Costa Rica, there is a organization which is known as INBIO. They have been able to identify 10 lakh species, plant species having the medicinal value. So for the ecological restoration and maintaining this biodiversity, some of the countries, they are spending a lot. I can say that America, they are spending $103 million every year. And they are not spending so much of money for their passion. You know, the Americans have a passion to purchase the car, for which they are spending only $83 million. So this is the first part of my life, which is the making what is biodiversity. Now this biodiversity is under threatening. Why? Now due to anthropogenic activities. These anthropogenic activities making climate action, and climate change attributes in two heads. One, by rising the temperature of the ocean simply, and second one, causing the sea level rise, and the second one by rising the temperature of the atmosphere. Now what is the cost of biodiversity? Economic. The economic cost, I can say, it is $33 trillion, which is the double of world GNP. But it is obvious, most of the species which is available today, it may not be present in earlier times. And some of the species that is available today, it is due to varieties, it is due to mutation. And as I have mentioned, that we have entered into the 6th mass extinction. I told you that I will say what are the other 5 mass extinction when the species were destroyed. The first one, it is Ordovician Silurian extinction. Ordovician Silurian extinction. This is the first mass extinction, which was occurred in 444 million years ago, where we have lost 86% of the species. The second mass extinction was occurred in late Devonian, that is 383 to 359 million years ago, where we have lost 75% of the species. The third, Permian Triassic. It is the most devastating mass extinction because at that time, during the 252 million years ago, 96% of the species were destroyed. Two-thirds of the oceanic animals destroyed, and more than half of the plant and terrestrial animals were destroyed. So this is the most dangerous mass extinction which has occurred in the third, that is Permian and Triassic period. And the fourth one, it is the Triassic and Jurassic, which was occurred in 201 million years ago, where 80% of the plant species and animal species were destroyed. Come to the fourth one, which is occurred in Cretaceous Paleogene, which was occurred in 66 million years ago, when 76% of the species loss we have seen. And this is the most important era of extinction of dinosaur. Along with the dinosaur, we have lost 50% of the species and 15% of the ocean species. Now it is your time. You have entered into the sixth mass extinction. My students might have been asked me that, sir, when it was started? Yes, sometimes it is told that it has been started in the 60,000 years ago. But official records so far, it is 11,700 years ago. That means it is the time of agriculture when we have started. This is the time of agriculture we have started. It is told for agriculture, the domestication of the plants, human first destroyed and make some erratic relationship with the nature, because they have destroyed the forest, they have keeping the land for cultivation, which was occurred besides the river. So now the scientists are worried about it. So sixth mass extinction officially started from 11,700 years ago. Why the scientist is worried right now today? That is global warming, which is caused by climate change. Who is the major gas of it? Greenhouse gases, that is carbon dioxide. I can say that the million years ago, the carbon dioxide concentration was 180. And up to 1760, it is told the agriculture which was started from 11,700 up to 1760, it is the agriculture period. After 1760s, we have entered into the industrial revolution. So from this period, this millions of years we have taken, and before that, 180 to 280 ppm concentration of carbon dioxide. And after 1760, we have seen the carbon dioxide concentration was or became 280 to 400 ppm. I am talking about 2018 record. That is the carbon dioxide concentration is 400 ppm. Now, do you want to know what is the rate of extinction? At that time, for the last 250 years, starting from 600 to 1850, within these 250 years, in every decade, 2 to 3 species were destroyed or became extinct. After that, at least 20,000 species destroyed, and mostly in the tropical region. And this year, scientists are worried that we are approaching towards the extinction or causing extinction of 10 lakh species every year. It may be happened. So this is the concern, why we are worried and why we are going to conduct this biodiversity, for preservation of this biodiversity. In the beginning, I told you anthropogenic and anthropocene. My students of geography and geological sciences, those who hear me, that this terminology Anthropocene, it was coined by Stoimer, Eugen E. Stoimer, and it was very much appreciated, and it was excitedly accepted by Paul Cruzen. You know, he is the Nobel laureate. But the Anthropocene era, it started, it's an epoch. It started in the year 1945, 16th July. Now why? This is the first date of Trinity test. My students, my dear beloveds, you know, this is the time of plutonium bomb detonation in Almogado. So this time making the starting point of Anthropocene epoch. But there are some other views also. I am not going in details about it. It has not been even accepted by that it should be called as Anthropocene. But it is told, it is sure that during this era, there is a huge change. After that, since 1945, there is a huge change in the geology and ecosystem along with the climate change. Why? Because of deforestation. Huge urbanization and industrialization, modernization, and the economic growth. For this economic growth, we have destroyed the forest. We have started intensive agriculture. We have started wildlife trading, I will tell you. We have started excessive use of pesticide. And finally, introduction of invasive species. I will tell you, the extensive use of pesticides. In 1947, Sir James Muller received the Nobel Prize due to DDT. After 1960s or 1962, America stopped the business of DDT. Not only business, but uses. But we, the Indian people, are taking the help of this DDT to to spray these pesticides. But you see, we are losing $800 billion of crop yield, only not due to natural pollination. We have to depend on the artificial pollination, but for making the crop yields. So what a huge loss it is. And it is only due to intervention of the human being. I will tell you, human being is the boss. But if you say Aristotle, who is the father of biology, who is the father of political science, he started to say that nature created plants, and the plants created for the animals, and animals for human being. You see, the last one, human being. Next, according to Bible, that Stoic opinion, the creator of nature created grasses for domestication, for domesticated animals, and these animals are meant for giving service and sacrifice for the humankind. You see, human being, humankind. And the German philosopher Immanuel Kant was excited by knowing this thing. He said, man is the boss. And he distinguished all the things, living or non-living, in this world into two heads. One is called human ecology, another one is called non-human ecology, where in one part there is human-centric, in other part it was non-human centric. It may be non-living, and other so much so animals and like that. And the Darwin also give us the status of the human being, that we are situated in the evolutionary pinnacle. So man has gained the power to reign over the all organisms in this world, and this is making for the comfort of them. According to Murray, he told that the other organisms in the world are to giving the comfort for human being. So we have imbibed the character of becoming, having this power to reign over all other things. Actually, this is our habit. This is our manner. This is our culture that we have developed during the early times. Because our earlier men, they had the power of hunting and gathering. According to some anthropologists, at that time, the cranial capacity of the human being is not so high, which was maybe the okay. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Hello. Okay. Okay. So the man started the hunting or ambushing that means the herds of animals to getting the meat in 2 million years ago, or sometimes it is told 1.6 million years ago. So man possessed the nature of animal killing, sacrificing for gods. It is also আমরা বাংলায় যেটাকে বলি পশু বলি. But you see, in one of our dharma shastra in Manu, it is told that animal killing is not the ethical, because to improve the muscle or meat by another's meat is not advisable. So still then, man is making the trade with the animals. Man is taking the meat from the animals. So you cannot blame the people of the one city or province, Hubei of China, that they are only getting the animal meat. Because this animal meeting, if you calculate, you will see that if you take, you see, within 50 years, the human population become double. Okay. But you see that getting this bush meat, বাংলায় বলে জংলি মাংস, or meat of wild animals or farm animals, we have increased this 3 times. And per day, we are taking 200 billion animals to get their meat to satisfy the population of this earth. Can you imagine this thing? How much animals we are killing? 1.2 trillion numbers of species of fish and fish products, fisheries, for this human to feed. This is a big industry. This is a big trading. Simply in Africa, there is a business of $73 million every year. And one African is earning $1,000 per month by this trading. And in the world, $123,000 they are gaining. And what they are spending? They are sending it to the European market. In this European market, every week they are trading 11,000 pounds of meat. I can give you one example. One bamboo rat, ওই বাঁশ ঝাড়ে এক ধরনের ইঁদুর হয়, bamboo rat. It is a very good meat. It is also available in our Assam. One bamboo rat is priced in London market $40. One monkey, $140. These are all purchased and sold in the wet market. This is called wet market. And every year there is a trading of 40,000 primates, 40 lakh birds, 6.5 lakh reptiles, 3.5 crores of tropical fish and fisheries. And this is not only in China. This is also in Indonesia, Vietnam, Bangkok, Thailand also. Do listen to me. That in Indonesia, in their wet market, there is a big wet market that is called Northern Silesia market. And every year, they are selling 90,000 mammals. And in Thailand, every week, they are trading 70,000 birds, live birds of 276 species. That is why Andrew Cunningham told that in his opinion that we are keeping us within the time bomb. All these wet markets are nothing but the time bombs. And who are the consumer of this bush meat or wild meat? Do you know? That is the rich people. It is the luxury food item. They used to get it during their marriage ceremony, their birthday party, their office party. No, the poor people are not getting a bit of that. And if you want to say the wet market is the time bomb that is caused due to these rich people. Another part of these wild animals we are using for this medicinal value. We know it. And recently, you see that in China, they have prepared one serum, that is one preventive medicine from the gallbladder of bear, bhalluk. Bhalluker gallbladder theke tara ekta they have preventive keeping one preventive measure that is using. So where you will go? And you know that in China, there is so much huge industries with this medicinal that they are using the animals for their medicine. Actually, this year, observing this loss of huge diversity, sometimes in February, UNEP, that they met in Rome, and they have declared one 20 charter, 20 dafa daibi. In that, it is mentioned that the ecological restoration will be occurred. So they have declared that 2021 to 2030, 2021 to 2030, these 10 years will be considered for ecological restoration and biodiversity conservation. And who also tried to make this conference in in the Kunming, that is in also China, in Kunming, sometimes in October, but we do not know whether it will be happened or not. But it is, they are proposing to prepare some protocol for saving these endangered animals, endangered species of plants. Now the second part of my context is the recent context. That is this, you see, the intensification of these epidemics or pandemics and biodiversity. This is related with the climate change. Obviously, you are thinking, what is the relation between this spreading or pandemics of this COVID-19 disease or the which is called the SARS-CoV-2, this is the virus, and what is the relation between this severe acute respiratory syndrome, that is SARS, and Middle East respiratory syndrome, that is MERS. Yes, As the civilization is progressed, spread, so did pandemics. Decimated millions of life, simply starting from the strain of typhoid. This is the, you see that typhoid is the first disease so far identified during 440 BC or before Christ in Greece. Millions of people died at that time. Still, which you have seen, the COVID-19 ravaging the world today. So these microbes, once upon a time, the bacteria, virus, and human being, they were in the cohesion. Now, what is the devastation you are observing today? It is not the first time. There are so many epidemics or pandemics that appeared. And we have prepared and fighting with this bacteria and virus by producing the vaccine, by producing the preventive measures. Still today, we have to sustain with this thing. And don't forget about this, that small microbes, they are also playing a very, very important role in the climate change, which was ignored by so many scientists during the last 4 more years. Very recently, 30 scientists, that means microbiologists, from the 9 countries, they have prepared a review paper in the Nature. And this publication is really very illuminating and very much informative to giving the importance of these invisible, innumerable microbes with the climate change. In one hand, these microbes are very, very important, causing climate change. And climate change, on the other hand, making the change of these microbes. You see that WHO, they have so far registered 1,415 diseases. Out of these 1,415 diseases, 61 are zoonotic. That means animal borne. Out of this 61%, 70% is caused by the wild animal. Because this wild animal harbor this bacteria and virus within them. So if the human being consume them or getting in touch with them, they will be infected. I will tell you that story one after another. So we can consider, if you consider what is the number of these microbes which is present simply in the ocean, it is 1 into 10 to the power 30 number of microbes so far in the ocean. It is an estimation by the oceanographers. Do you know? If you add 1 microbes one after another, then it will spread out. It will cross 60 galaxies. 95% of the oceanic mass is from that microbes. It is the equivalent weight of 275,000 blue sperm whale. So far, the biggest mammal is concerned. And it is the 1,000 times more the total human population in the earth. So can you imagine the thrust of these microbes? So we are destroying these microbes due to climate change, due to rising the temperature, due to acidification of the ocean, as well as addition of excess nutrients into the ocean. As a result, the microbes require more oxygen. So we are making some of the region as a dead sea region where there is no life. We are destroying the life of that region. That is why the Professor Rick Clavicholi, he told, one day will come, the ocean will perish in hunger. And we know. This is one side. Now I will tell you another side. The another side where there is microbes present in the permafrost. You know that the Arctic and Antarctic cycle, the temperature of the terrestrial or this atmosphere, it is rising, and in the Arctic cycle and the Antarctic cycle, it will rise 3 times more. So the rate of melting of ice, that means permafrost, is higher than the present. How much? Just 10 to 15 years ago, it was 53 gigaton, and now it is 220 gigaton. 220 gigaton permafrost are melting. I will tell you. Have you seen the yesterday newspaper where that is Varkanox in the Arctic cycle? We are wrapping this permafrost with the plastic. My friends, human being is wrapping the nature with the plastics. Now nature is wrapping the human being with the plastics. That is PPE. So everything will come back. Can you imagine this thing? Now the scientists, all the microbiologists, particularly the Michael Rich, John Michael, NASA, they have identified so many microbes from the permafrost. And suppose I can give you some of the name of this, that is Carnobacterium, Listorium, or these microbes. And these microbes are 32 to 40,000 years old. The permafrost are sometimes in 80 lakhs years old, permafrost. So if they are melting, as you know, we have already 1,40,000 years interglacial period, and within this 1,25,000 years, we have raised the sea level 10 meter. In the report of the 2020, sometimes in February, if the ice of the Greenland, started melting, then the coastal belt, the surface of the ocean, will raise up to 7 meters. How much devastation it will cause to the people, those who are staying in the coast, you can imagine. Okay, come to this microbes. The scientists from the Novosibirsk virology and biotechnology discovered the virus during the Stone Age, means 4 million years ago. And the name of this virus, 4 million years ago, they have got some identification, some similarity with the microbes of 1890s, that is called smallpox. So the man, if you consider the Neanderthal man or Denisovian man, that means the earlier hominid group, if they died with this virus infection and buried into the permafrost, now these permafrost are melting, the virus is coming, and it is spreading in the water, in the soil, in the atmosphere. So this virus is causing, one of them may be causing this devastation which is present within these wild animals. And we are getting or taking these wild animals. I will tell you, scientist Claverie identified 2 viruses. One is Pithovirus sibiricum and another is Mollivirus sibiricum, in 30 years old, from the permafrost. And it has got the similarity with the Spanish flu, which was occurred in 1980, just 100 years ago. This has got the similarity with the Spanish flu. How? Because at that time, this permafrost, due to summer, melts. As a result of that, these dead bodies, these microbes, and you know, the microbes can be rejuvenated or revived. Scientifically, it is called resuscitated. RESUSCITATED. TED. It's a good English for used for the microbes resuscitated, and it is possible. It is possible. So scientists are checking this number of microbes that is causing the outbreaks and the number of microbes which is present in the permafrost, and after the melting of the permafrost, these microbes are coming. So it is causing these outbreaks. I'll tell you that story. Very recently, in 2016, a boy from Yamel Peninsula, that is in Siberia, he was suffered from anthrax, and the boy was killed. Died. Sorry, the boy died, and 20 people were hospitalized. When the scientists are observing this one, they are examining this. They saw that it came from reindeer 75 years ago, which was buried in the permafrost. One reindeer, during summer, the body of this reindeer exposed, and this virus, anthrax, came and distributed in the water as well as in the soil. I will tell you, in the 19th century, 1 lakh dead reindeer died. Can you imagine this thing? If this 1 lakh reindeer come back after melting of the ice, the Pandora's box will open. Now what will happen? Please keep in your mind. That is, you are imparting, you are making changes in the climate, which is helping to melting of this ice. As a result of that, we are exposed to these outbreaks. And as I told you, that 70% is coming from the wild animal. The 70%, I can mention you that you know HIV, which is distributed or caused by the green monkey. The Ebola, which is caused by monkey and bat. And the Zika virus, it is mainly from the monkey. And very recently, the Malaysian Nipah, which is called Nipah. I'll tell you what happened. The Malaysian people, they have destroyed the forest for cultivation. And the fruit eater bats, those who are available in this forest, they came to the wetland near to the farm. And this first infection got by these farmers. So you are inviting the wild animals instead of their forest to your habitat, because they are not getting their security in the forest, and you are inviting them to come within your farmland. So this Malaysian Nipah, then your recent SARS and MARS, they are also infected by the bat and civet. And you see that this SARS-CoV-2, it is either by bat or pangolin. Another incidence is there. In Europe, once upon a time, there is a disease which is known as trichinosis. And this trichinosis caused due to uncooked food of the wild boar. It is taken by the human being, not properly cooked, so the human being get infection. So I came to the last part of my lecture, that this zoonotic disease, particularly this animal-borne disease from the wildlife, that is invited by the man. my friends, the listeners, so we cannot get rid of the virus. Today it is COVID. In next few decades, it will be in the another name. Only it is my advice, it is my proposition to the cream of the students to engage themselves for preparing the preventive medicine as well as vaccine. So this only can help the man to get rid of these diseases, pandemics. I will finish with the quotation from Sir Albert Schweitzer. Very nice. He told, man has capacity to foresee. মানুষের ক্ষমতা আছে ভবিষ্যৎ দেখার, ফোরস্টল, আন্দাজ করারও ক্ষমতা আছে সেখান থেকে কি করে বাঁচা যায়। কিন্তু ম্যান উইল এন্ড বাই ডিস্ট্রয়িং হিমসেলফ, মানুষ কিন্তু নিজেকেই মেরে দেবে, নিজের সে ক্ষমতাটাও আছে। সেই জন্য লিওপোল্ড টোল্ড, হিউম্যান উড বি দ্য curator of the or protector of the nature, not the conqueror. Why? Because for the greatest good, for the greatest number, for the longest time of survival. So all of you, please stay at home. Make yourself safe from the incidents that from where you can get rid of this disease, but be engaged with all security protections to do some work. Thank you everybody once again. Namaskar.
Thank you,
Hello.
sir. Thank you, sir, for such an engaging and engrossing presentation. The way the various issues pertaining to this subject has been dealt with, I'm sure it has whetted the audience's appetite to know more. The way particularly you connected economic interests with the depletion of natural resources, I'm sure is going to raise a few more questions. So with your permission, we would like to move on to the question answer session. Sir, shall we?
Sure.
Thank you, sir. I now request Professor Arnob Chatterjee to moderate this question answer session. Professor Chatterjee?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Professor Rohini Kaur, for inviting me for this session. And sir, it was a really entertaining session. It was an educative as well as an entertaining session for all of us. We came to know a lot of things, and really you enlightened us, and I hope the students will get the maximum benefit out of this session. And so now, sir, as it was a very interesting session, so a lot of questions have already come, and now I'm going to ask a couple of questions. I hope you are going to answer these questions, and people would like to interact with you. But as there is a problem in this online platform, so I'm going to pick up the questions and going to ask you, and then people will give you responses. Thank you. Now I'm going to start with the questions. So the very first question is from our college, Professor Orpita Chakraborty, that more than common man's doing, I think the interference is linked with market economy. So can it be appropriately called the capitalocene rather than Anthropocene? So your comment.
You see, this terminology Anthropocene, it is, as I have told you, that given by the Stoemer, and it was appreciated. But it is even today, it has not been accepted by so many geographers. There is a great debate. And to make this starting point of this era, which I have told 1945, 16th of July, that is the Trinity test of plutonium bomb detonation. Still then, this epoch is started at that time. There is no doubt. because sometimes some people have taken it that the climate change started, it's a devastating way from that time, keeping the changes in the geology, keeping the changes in the ecosystem. But economy and the economic center or the urbanization and the economic development connecting with the Anthropocene, it is not today's feature. It is if you see that there is a distinction of the human evolution that you will see, that is the social, then cultural. And the cultural point of view, it was started with the economy. So economy will be there.
Okay, sir. Then I'm going to move on to the next question. That is from our Professor Rohini Kaur. That is, depletion of nature's resources is thus very much tied to corporate interest. In this case, how can the general public stop this? The various tribal practices of hunting is derided upon, but no such news of systematic destruction of nature comes to fore. How to deal with this?
You see that we are getting the resources from the nature. Whatever the industrialization we are going for, that is dependent on the resources. And the resources, the only resources that you are getting from the nature itself. Destroy nature to get the resource for your industrialization, for your urbanization, for your development of economy. Whatever it is. Now, the interest of the corporate sector is not judicial. For making the sustainable goal strategy, before using the resources, there must be some protocol. Suppose you see, when you are cutting the forests, you have to put plantation here. So when you are excavating or exploring the coal from the mines, you have to take interest will be there because they are much interested about the benefit of their organization. But what is government is doing? Government has to impart on this, framing the regulation for making, to assure the tribals, the users of the forest, as well as the resource maker, that means the decision maker, those who are exploiting, I would say exploiting these resources. So I think that the human being, it's a nature, I have told you. If I say the hunting, it is the wild nature of the man which is since its evolution. But there is a trading for that. So for this trading, you have to follow something. When you will, what you should trade and what not. Human, and one thing more, that if you see that I have told you, whatever you are taking from the nature, obviously it is of your use. The sustainable goal, the sustainable development goal strategy, which is implanted in this year, there it is mentioned, you see, this goal must be followed by every human being. Here my question is that if you forced the government to do this thing, suppose if you are forced not to use the plastic, you will blame the government. Why not we people make ourselves assured that we should not use the plastic? And if you use the plastic, then it must be industrialized in such a way that must be degraded or biodegradable. So in this way, the corporate sense, corporate interest will also be fulfilled, as well as we can shape the exploitation of these natural resources.
Thank you, sir. The next question is from Devolina Dhor, and she is asking, sir, why species extinction rate is comparatively more in tropical regions?
Yes. You see that I have told you that 10 to 20% is the mostly in the tropical region, and it is told that the climatic action is much more serious in the tropical region. That is why it is told that maybe the extinction or the species which is going for extinction or approaching towards extinction, this may be the region. That is only the severity of the climatic action.
Okay, sir. Now we are going to for the next question. That is from our Gautam Patra. Then he is asking, Dr. Gautam Patra is asking that how much microbes appearing could be prevented. I think he is asking regarding that ocean related part, and what is the duty of the present generation to change the teaching learning process for proper learning of these microbes in school curriculum. Would you like to answer this question, sir?
Okay.
How much microbes appearing could be prevented, and how such microbes appearing could be prevented, and what is the duty of the present generation to change the teaching learning process for proper learning of these microbes in school curriculum?
Really, it's a very nice approach from the, as I told you, microbes, that means bacteria, virus, and human being. If you see the first life in this earth, that is the cyanobacteria, which is appeared in 3.5 billion years ago. So we are not the first to appear in this earth. We have come from this for the evolutionary pinnacle to reach the evolutionary pinnacle. And the starting point of these microbes, it's a cohesion that I have mentioned you. Now these, as I told in this lecture, that my cream students should be more interested to study the microbes, the microbial world. That if it might be in your mind that in most of the colleges, I mean most of the schools in the primary level, there may be no binocular or microscope even. But if I see the structure of a microbes, and if I giving the interest to the students that this is the microbes which is present in this number, and in your house, in your room, everywhere, if when you are affected by the influenza, you are affected by this virus, influenza virus, and when we are adding the antibiotic, even if it is mutated, then it cannot work on it. So you will be again infected by the microbes. So in this way, if I want to see or show him that this is the microbes in the structure and this is its mutation, that he's changing its style, that changing its life or structure and to infect another one, then I hope that the students will be getting more and more interest on the study of these microbes. And really, in the Indian climate, or even in the research ground of this Indian subcontinent, there are how many virology center are there? They are very less in number. But some of the development is going on in the regard to biotechnology, obviously, and some of the centers, they are developing the virology. So I hope that in near future that we would be able to, instead of preparing the missile, we will be preparing more vaccines, more preventive measures by using these microbes.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Sir, the next question is very pertinent question. One of the important, I think, from this context of pandemic and Amphan. How can Dr. Vishwanath Bhomik is asking, how can we recover the biodiversity that has been almost lost by the Amphan storm in West Bengal. Sir, any comment regarding this issue?
As you see that the which is called the uh, technical committee of tropical cyclone. The tropical cyclone management committee is there by India Meteorological Department, IMD. It is called IMD. Actually, they are taking some measures. Suppose you see that the number of plants they are uprooted. And as I told you, that if you want to cut a tree, I cannot say that it is the deforestation. It may be. This is the old aged plant. So it during the storm, it may cause harm to the society. It may cause loss to the society. So it should be required to cut. You do it with the permission of the forest. When you will do it, the forest will give you the permission that you have to plant one or more tree besides it. So the number of trees which has been uprooted due to an Amphan or any other cyclone, you can plant that tree in one hand. Maybe we are encouraging to plant the fruit trees for inviting more and more animals to keep the biodiversity sustainable. So in this way, if this tropical cyclone management strategy can be developed, I hope that in near future also we will be able to rejuvenate or restore the ecosystem with the earlier one. But for biodiversity conservation, you have to take some different measure. You know, there is biodiversity law or act. It has been to 2012. And there are so many clauses in it. As and when there is a loss of biodiversity and you are hunting for or giving the threat to the biodiversity, then what punishment you have to get, you can get it. So you must be cautious and concerned with this thing. In this way, we can conserve the biodiversity within, either in our forest, in our locality, in our park even. You see that there is a restoration park or biodiversity park. It is also advised by our Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change this year also. So in this way we can conserve the biodiversity even after this Amphan or so many other cyclones, tropical cyclones.
Thank you, sir. One more question from Madhuparna Seth, and it is, I think, very relevant that, sir, due to COVID-19 pandemic, immense number of masks and gloves are being disposed in the ocean, which is leading to pollution. Could you please throw some light to the solution to this problem?
Yes. I have prepared a review paper, and where I have mentioned that this biological waste in Wuhan city became 200 times more than the earlier one. You see, at that time, the greenhouse gases emission rate was declined, but the biological waste, this mask as well as this gloves, this is causing blockage to the drainage system. And in Italy, this mask and garbage system, they have taken care of. They have taken all these wastes. I cannot say that it is directly disposed to the ocean, but wherever it has been disposed, if you take care of that, not recycling, because this mask and the gloves which is infected, it is not advisable for recycling. The only strategy is burning. So in the incineration, the burning is the good method for removing this biological wastes for again causing infection. But I want to say that a very few of them obviously disposed to the ocean, but I am not getting so much of data on it. But they are disposed in the municipality, it is sure, and they have been employed the mechanism of resignation. That means burning in the pit inside with a high pressure and temperature for the disinfectant without any buried into the any other thing or disposed in the drain. That they have taken. This measure can be taken. And you see that for the sanitization, the for sanitization, they are using one chemicals. Really, it is the chlorine radicals which is disposed into the water. That is also threatening to all of us. That you can say also. During sanitization, we are using the spray with these chemicals. I have forgotten the name of these chemicals, but these chemicals, there is the chlorine radical which is causing harms to the other biological organisms present in the water. That is also threatening. Yes, very nice of it. Thank you for this question.
Thank you, sir. I think we have come to the last question because a lot of questions are there because it was so exciting and elaborating and a lot of information you have given to us, sir. That's what people, it really, I think, provoke people to think about regarding the climate change and its connection to the this pandemic situation, and overall how it is leading to the different diseases. So this thought of ideas actually triggered, I think, different queries to our participants, and I am going to end this session with this last question. And
hello, sir,
yes,
just a minute. Hello.
Yes, sir, please. You are audible.
Okay. Just one thing I want to mention, that you see that this climate change, as I told you that it is indisputable, and it is causing the devastation in different ways. I have mentioned in the 1986 there is a program which was taken by the World Environment Day, a tree for peace plantation program for every school, college and university must be mandatory, because the power of sequestration of carbon, because I know you cannot stop industrialization, you cannot stop urbanization, you cannot stop modernization. Everywhere, whatever the modernization, industrialization and economic development you want to do, you will make the greenhouse gases. And if you want to combat this, if you want to get rid of this, you have to sequester these greenhouse gases, which is only possible by plantation program. So you can convey the message to all of the students, all of the society people, please protect and take care of every plant. I will say a 50 years old plant can give you an amount of oxygen which is worth 5 lakh rupees. Simply one plant of 50 years old. You need not take so much help of the ACs if your surroundings is well covered by green belt. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Yes. I think the last question asked by Orpita Chakravarti already been answered by you, that what is the role of common man in playing constructive role in policy making of the government? I think, sir, you have just now answered that plantation is the key, that we have to think in this such a way. But sir, I would like to know from you that if we carefully look at the National Action Plan on Climate Change and their policy formation,
yes,
the last couple of budgets,
Yes.
it was only about to improve the air quality index. Even the prestigious project Namomi Gange, that also not got
Yes.
enough funding from the union government. So in this context, only the air purification, just the India has some important role. India has some promise to in United Nations that we will improve our air quality. Just only we are focusing on air when we are neglecting the urban green project, we are neglecting the clean water mission, even the Namumi Gange. So this holistic to a pinpointed approach, does it really working well, sir? That is my question. Whether we should think in a holistic manner or we should go for a mission mode to solve one problem, then look after and then think about the other one. Is this approach is the correct way to move forward?
If you see the nation is spending where 0.464% of the global budget for education, and they are spending 20% of their more budget in the military action. They are preparing missiles. They are not prepared for combating the microbes. They are not giving the opportunity to the my cream students to building this education sector to be equipped for fighting against the microbes. They are more interested about fighting with the people with the missiles and atom bomb. And you see, the atmospheric concentration, when the carbon dioxide was high in the two countries, and in the carbon dioxide concentration in India is not per capita is not so high. For your information, it is only 2.14 per capita. In China, it is 15.17. In USA, it is 17.89. And you are preparing the roads, you see, for facilitating the transport facility. The budget is prepared with the help of World Monetary Fund for subsidizing the motor vehicles to go in this road. Okay, so this is the what I say ridiculous thing. It is happening within the climate change as well as with you common people. But one thing I must say, Madam Orpita has rightly mentioned what will be the role of the common people. You are the government. Government is not a different part of you, because you are comprising, you are the constituent of the government. Why not you can exert? Why should you not exert to get the benefit that you have paid for the nature? Why you should allow the other people to destroy the natural resource? For a promoter, they are granting the 5-story, 7-story building by destroying the park for that made for the children. What are the doing surrounding society is doing? Not to build, not to allow the promoter to make this demolishing of this park for making the building. Madam, you are the part of the society. You are the component. You are one of the most important component of the government. We can only change, I do believe.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
I think this webinar was not only about to learn something, it was about to relearn and re-educate ourselves and to promote advocacy regarding the need of the hour, that is to protect our environment and to be concerned about the climate change regarding issues. So I think, sir, you have rightly pointed out and covered so nicely that we are all what we were and what we are now. It is significantly different. And thank you so much once again from my end and from the Internal Quality Assurance Cell of Asansol Girls College. And now I would request Professor Rohini Kaur to please proceed with the next session.
Thank you, Professor Arnab Chatterjee. And thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Apurva Ratan Ghosh. Sir, thank you so much for this enthralling presentation. I think the overwhelming response from the audience says it all. I would thank you on behalf of all of us for patiently addressing the questions that have been raised by the audience and covering almost all aspects. And I so much agree with Professor Arno Chatterjee that it's time that we take care to promote the cause of our environment. Now, I would like to request our IQAC coordinator, Dr. Shamul Sheth, to deliver the vote of thanks. Sir?
You're not audible, sir.
শ্যামলদা মিউটটা আনমিউট করে দিন।
You're not audible.
শ্যামলদা আনমিউট করুন।
আনমিউট করো, আনমিউট শোনা যাচ্ছে না।
Dr. Samal said you are not audible.
Biru, please.
Sir, you are not audible.
Sir.
মিউট আছে তোমারটা।
Sir, you are not audible.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, audible.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir, you're audible now.
Okay. Thank you. Hearty good afternoon to all the participants in online platform. I am very humbled and honored to be the one making the closing remarks and giving the vote of thanks in such a distinguished and intellectually stimulating virtual gathering. As a coordinator of IQAC and on behalf of my institution, I express my sense of gratitude and would like to thank our distinguished speaker, Dr. Apurva Ratan Ghosh, Professor of Environmental Science, Bardwan University, who took out his valuable time from his busy schedule and blessed us with his lecture in the title of Biodiversity and Climate Change, and for making such excellent presentation and clarifying all our questions regarding these topics. Also making this webinar most interesting and meaningful in recent context. I would also like to express my gratitude to our Vice Principal for encouraging and supporting us to organize these successful events. Heartiest thanks to entire team of Asansol Girls College, especially conveners, technical coordinators, science propagation committee members who have worked hard for organizing this webinar. Last but not the least, I would like to thank and hereby congratulate all the participants for their active participation in this webinar. Again, a big thanks to all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you, all of you. We now bring this webinar to its close. Thank you all.